What does Halo actually need to succeed? Not just do okay or sell a few copies or trend on Twitter for a weekend, but to genuinely come back as a pillar of gaming. So, I asked Halo fans in my community and others a simple question. What does the next Halo game have to have? And the answers, some extremely helpful, others not so much. Some people said Bungie, some said a finished game, some people said to just let it die. And those kind of answers tell me something important. That's that Halo doesn't necessarily have like a hype problem or anything like that. It has a trust problem. While some of those people may have been trolling, I do think that there is some merit to that. So today, we're going to break down what people are really asking for, what the next Halo must absolutely nail if this franchise is going to continue into the future. So if you answered on YouTube or on Twitter, just stick around, you might be in the video. And honestly, if you enjoy Halo content and taking kind of a deep dive into it, this is the channel for you. I'm trying to hit 25,000 subscribers this year. There's only like 3 Halo YouTubers left, so make sure you subscribe.
Eren とジークを助けてください。信じていますよ。
So multiple comments kind of just boiled down to Bungie's development team from 2000. It needs to play like Halo 3. And to me, that's not just blind nostalgia. That's people asking for a design philosophy change. To me, and you guys can disagree with me in the comments, classic Halo was slower and deliberate. There was way more map control. There was a predictable but deep sandbox. There was clear roles for weapons. But modern Halo keeps drifting towards faster movement, slide heavy combat, abilities with the equipment, that open world campaign structure, and just live service progression. And I feel like this has led to a lot of fans and members in the community that feel like Halo doesn't know what it is anymore. And it's hard to, when Halo Studios says that they're listening to fans, to figure out which fans they're listening to. The ones that want classic multiplayer arena, ones who want sprint, the ones who want an open world campaign, the competitive esport community, casual players. You can't be everything to everyone, and when you try, you become nothing to anyone. One fan said that Halo Infinite nailed look and gameplay, but there just wasn't enough unique biomes, and the story was severely lacking. And another person said that Infinite is way too fast. And I think that those two comments actually are agreeing on something, and that's that Halo's foundation isn't broken, the direction is. When you think of these other games out there, other franchises, you know what you're getting. You picture Apex and stuff like that. You know what it is. But Halo has changed so much over the years from each release. Is it fast? Is it slow? Competitive, casual? Is it a linear campaign? Is it open world? And the answer seems to change with every release. So going forward, Halo has to pick a lane. I think consistency with this IP has to be on the forefront of Halo Studios' mind. Not so much about chasing trends or anything like that, but rather making Halo feel like Halo first, and then everything else can come second. I feel like that's kind of the identity crisis that we have at the moment, but that's only part of the problem. Because even if they nail the feel, there's a bigger issue that fans won't really forgive. And that, my friends, is a full, feature-complete game at launch. I really do think that this is the loudest theme that I received in terms of answers. Forge, day one. Modes like Slayer, day one. Full functional, feature-complete game. A full game on release. And I know a lot of games now in this live service era, rely on just patching the game after it launches. And 10 years ago, this wasn't even a problem, but now it is. And to be quite honest, fans and myself do not believe that Halo launches finished anymore, and that is devastating. You look at the old games and what they launched with, and then coming to Halo Infinite at launch with no co-op for almost a year, barely double-digit maps, no Forge for over a year, limited modes, no mission replay, broken theater, Halo 5 as well. And I look at it and I think it's that roadmap mentality that live service games have with, don't worry, this feature is coming in season 3. It'll be here eventually. Hey, we're working on that one feature that you guys love. We're gonna get to it, I promise. And like, obviously that does work for some games and for live service games that are built that way from the start, but Halo is not Fortnite, you know, like Halo fans expect a complete package. Like the non-negotiables that Halo, the next Halo must ship with is campaign, multiplayer, forge, co-op, custom games, theater, core modes, no roadmaps of, hey, this thing's coming in season 3. It's gotta be day 1 because people will not wait. They have been trained not to. And in this day and age, when a game does launch complete, like, people gravitate to that. They put it on a pedestal. I know that there was supposed to be, like, campaign DLC for Halo Infinite, but look what happened. But let's say the game does launch complete. But there's still something that's fundamentally broken about modern Halo, and it has to do with how you unlock your Spartan. One fan said a well-built gear system, which means no paid cosmetics. Another one said return to customization that isn't clearly designed to siphon money from you. I think that players can tell when a system exists to be fun and when it exists just to sell product. You know, looking back at unlocking recon in Halo 3, you got to do vid mastery, you got to work with friends, you have to actually be kind of skilled at the game, and when you saw somebody with it, you knew that they earned recon. And in Infinite, you see someone with cool armor and think, whose credit card did they use? Looking at classic Halo, customization was earned through gameplay and achievements, and there was some sort of social flex that went into it, but with modern Halo, it's fragmented, it's artificially restricted, it's store first, battle pass bot cosmetics and stuff. It feels like a large part of the game is going to the mall to pick out what you're gonna buy. It's not what you did to unlock it, not your progression or anything like that. And I understand that free-to-play games like Halo Infinite's multiplayer needs monetization, but there's a difference between we have optional cosmetics in the game to help support it, and we designed the entire progression system to make you feel incomplete unless you spend some money. I really do feel like, you know, breaking out of that mold really hurts something fundamental with Halo. I even think that having red versus blue, man, I go back and play Halo 3 and Halo 2 and stuff, and it just hits a little different. Like, it feels like Halo. So the next Halo needs earnable armor with, you know, it tied to achievements and, you know, commendations like back in the day, challenge-based cosmetics. I think the store can be there, but it's optional and not the central way for you to get customization. I don't think players want to feel like they're going to the ATM to play, but at the end of the day, they will spend money on games that they love. But customization is really just on the multiplayer side. There are campaign issues, and I feel like those run pretty deep now. In the feedback, there was a ton of story-focused answers. Finished campaign with a compelling story, unique levels, content complete campaign, stop doing universe resets, and that all screams to me that fans don't really want another, like, reboot of a game. They want payoff. Halo has always kind of had a problem with stories in between games. You know, recently with Halo Studios, we've had the Didact who got killed in a comic, and then Cortana became the villain, but then she's, like, I guess killed off screen. Don't quote me on that. Actually don't know if she's, like, for real dead. Alotide, you're not a lore YouTuber. But, like, while those ideas are cool, there's minimal payoff. And, like, I do love the books. I love the Halo novels and everything like that. But it really feels like all these things that happen off screen to people who might not partake in that side of things, it feels like they're in narrative purgatory. I think the novels and, you know, comics and web series should all be extra lore, but you should be able to play the games and not have to be like, what happened? Oh, well, you need to read the issue 7 of journal entry number 42 on this obscure website to know. So I don't think we can't rely on the books to explain whatever it is, because I think you lose out on a lot of people caring about the story. You got to develop Atriox as a genuine threat in the game. You got to define the Endless and their purpose in the game. You got to commit to consequences in the game, not forcing people to interact with media that they don't normally interact with. I think that people would disagree with me on that, but that's just my opinion, as somebody that kind of does a little bit of research into that. Halo campaigns need to feel like, a blockbuster sci-fi epic. It's got to have memorable moments and things like that. If it is linear, it's got to have, curated missions and set pieces. I think back to Halo Infinite, and it was just like rescuing Marines from the FOBs, and you might fight a boss in an arena, and you just kind of repeated that. And open world does work for some games, and it could work for Halo, but to me, Halo's strength was always the authored experience. Moments that, while scripted, they're what you remember. But even with a perfect campaign, it won't matter if the game doesn't run properly, and apparently that is a huge problem within the community. One fan said, good performance is very important. Another said, it needs to feel like there was an effort to actually get it done. And I think a lot of games launch super unoptimized in today's age. But between the Slip Space engine and just the disaster that was, and now them moving to Unreal, I'm nervous. Slip Space took months to implement basic features. The things you have to do to kind of get Halo Infinite to run consistently are kind of crazy. And I'm worried about the Unreal Engine 5 unoptimization aspects of things. But with like Infinite, man, we had desync issues and frame pacing issues and hit registration issues, long loading times and menu lag. You only get one first impression, and it's not great. And I think that reputation kind of sticks. So again, I feel like it's got to have a strong UI. It's got to be intuitive and responsive. It's got to ship stable. Got to have good netcode and look clean. Have a clear visual language and not just clutter. Next up is something that I think is extremely important, and I feel is like something that is forgotten a lot, and that's that social Halo must return. I saw a lot of things about pre and post match lobbies, Spartan companies, things like playable elites. Halo used to feel social. You met people, you trash talked, you had rivalries, you partied up with randoms. The post-game banter, the 1v1 me bros, random friendships that formed and you have for the rest of your life, clans and custom game communities. To me, that was Halo's secret weapon. It was like Fortnite before Fortnite. But now, modern matchmaking just feels anonymous. You queue up, you play, these people are robots, it feels like. There's no voice chat. Rarely anybody ever talks. There's no lobby. It disbands after every game. There's no reason to interact. And I think that actually kills longevity, because to me, games also survive because of the community. Not just players, but because of the community. Like I said, you have your pre and post game lobbies where you actually see who you're playing. You can trash talk and party up. Clans and Spartan companies, custom game browser at launch. I look at Halo 3 custom games, and that was like basically getting a second game. Fat Kid and Duck Hunt and Jenga, those weren't made by Bungie or anything. They were made by the community. And that kept the game alive for years, and it was thriving. Halo should feel like a community, not a matchmaking simulator. And we're going to kind of segue into the next thing that might be holding Halo back. I've been really trying to articulate my thoughts on this, but I'm going to talk about what other people said first before we get into mine. And that is fun first, esports competitive second. One person said make it a genuinely fun video game first, then allow the esport to develop around it naturally. And I think that's a pretty good point. It feels like Halo has become obsessed with competitive viability. But classic Halo wasn't really engineered around MLG and tournaments. In fact, depending on who you ask, Bungie didn't really think too fondly of MLG and pro players back in the day. But I think Halo Studios 343 saw these huge esport titles like Counter-Strike and League and Valorant and stuff, and they thought, we need to compete with that. So they balanced for pro play first, they remove random elements and things like that. You're prioritizing esports viewing, and it's kind of forgetting what made Halo 2 and Halo 3 kind of thrive. And that was that millions of people, just casual players, loved the game first, and then pro and tournaments and stuff grew out of that. MLG grew because Halo was already massive, not the other way around. I think you do need to design for fun, for joy. You need to realize that if the game is fun, people are going to play. And if people play, some people will get competitive. And if the competitive scene is organic, it's going to thrive. Forcing it the other way around does not work. In this section, we're going to talk about, I guess, acknowledging some of the doomerism, and that some fans are just gone. It's, I had some people say it's doomed, let it die, Halo is done, there's no pleasing anyone. And honestly, they're not wrong. Halo does sit between generations. There's OG fans, new generation fans, fans of just one game. You can't serve all these different fan bases completely. So, some players are going to move on, and I think that's okay. They might have jobs and families, different priorities too. Gaming has changed in general. Halo 3 launched up against COD and Gears, but now the competition is like Apex and Valorant and Fortnite and Warzone, Destiny, Tarkov, Marathon's coming out, 100 other live service shooters. The market is extremely saturated, which means Halo cannot chase anyone, it's got to chase itself. That goes back to picking that identity. You got to commit to it, you got to be consistent, and you have to be confident in the fact knowing that some fans want 2007 back. Some fans want something new, and you're not going to please both perfectly. And then that's when you can actually move on and be confident in your direction. To me, fans are not asking for miracles. They're asking for a finished game, a respect for the legacy, honest customization, a strong campaign, stable performance, social features, and a clear identity. And at the end of the day, that's kind of it. I don't think that Halo needs reinvention. Whatever Halo 7 is, it doesn't need to be this crazy new thing. It just needs more of a restoration. It doesn't need to copy Halo 3, but you need to understand what made Halo 3 work. Halo 3 knew what it was. It shipped complete. It respected players' times. It had a community, and it fostered it. It prioritized fun. And those principles are timeless. If the next Halo can deliver on the fundamentals, I think the franchise is in a great spot now. Maybe it's not the biggest shooter in the world, maybe it's not Esports King, but it can still be a respected franchise with a loyal fan base. If it doesn't do that stuff, you're not going to be able to pull the new engine upgrade or a reshuffle of the studio or any type of marketing push behind it is going to save it. The ball is in Halo Studios and Microsoft's court. They have the feedback from us. They have the resources. Really, it does feel like they have one more chance. So I'm asking you at the end of this video, do you think Halo can be quote-unquote saved, or is it already too late? Let me know in the comments. I read all of them. I try to respond to all of them, especially if you are respectful. And again, if you want to see more deep dives into Halo, make sure you subscribe. And I will see you all in the next video. Peace!